Welcome to Lebanon, Oregon, home of the Albany and Eastern Railroad. The short line operates about 64 miles of track and interchanges with both Union Pacific and BNSF Railway via the Portland and Western. The Albany and Eastern is a Class III railroad company and was created when BNSF spun off the Sweet Home branch in May of 1998. The main line runs from Albany to Lebanon, with 2 branch lines at Lebanon going to Sweet Home and Mill City. In the morning, we found the train switching cars at NTEC International. NTEC's primary business is manufacturing polyethylene battery separators, which prevent short circuits caused by the bending and touching of the plates. In 2002, NTEC brought to market a new separator material for energy-dense lithium-ion batteries, which are used in cell phones, laptop computers, power tools, and hybrid electric cars and trucks. 4 years later, the company was making about 1.6 billion square feet of its Rhino Hide brand separators in Lebanon and England. The A&E traces its origins all the way to 1880, when the Albany and Lebanon Railroad was founded to connect rural communities throughout the Willamette Valley. Once the railroad was completed, its ownership was transferred to the Oregon and California Railroad, which connected the city of Portland to Northern California. For decades, the railroad transported logs, lumber, and agricultural goods throughout the Willamette Valley as Western Oregon industrialized. In 1887, Southern Pacific assumed control of the Oregon and California to access Portland and gain profitable feeder lines. The Lebanon to Mill City branch of the A&E was created by the construction of 2 old railroads. The trackage from Shelburne to Mill City was once part of the old Oregon Pacific's line from Yaquina to a place called Idaho. The section from Lebanon to Shelburne is part of a line that continued north to Woodburn and then to St. Paul. Going south, it also went to Springfield. The Oregonian Railway Company, a narrow gauge line, began construction of the railroad in 1880. It was purchased by the SP in 1890 and standardized. The line did not originally go to Lebanon, but actually bypassed it. From Crabtree, it originally beelined to Tallman, crossing over the South Santiam River. You can still see the original right-of-way in certain sections. The section between Tallman and Crabtree was abandoned and rebuilt on the route the A&E operates today. This is the section the SP built in 1910. Beginning in 1930 and fully in 1933, the Oregon Electric discontinued all of their passenger services system-wide. As a result, this branch was not built with passenger service in mind, but more so for freight. Because of this, the depot in Sweet Home was not finished until 1932. Also of note was that this section of the OE was completely separated from the main system, requiring trackage rights over the SP to reach the OE yard in Albany. Through various mergers and acquisitions, it eventually became part of the BNSF system in 1995. 3 years later, BNSF sold the Sweet Home branch to the Albany and Eastern. Since 2007, the A&E has improved its system by upgrading track and ties, allowing for heavier, modern rail cars for special commodities. In addition to its freight business, the Albany and Eastern also operates excursion trains over the 17-plus miles of track on the Sweet Home branch with their newly restored steam locomotive number 205. The 1924 Baldwin-built engine was meticulously restored by local visionary George Lavaco. The A&E's locomotive roster includes vintage EMD models and 6 B40-8s, acquired in 2015 and 2017. EMDs include a former SP GP9, a Black Widow SD9, and an SW1200R, painted in a beautiful American flag scheme. Locomotive number 1841 began life in July of 1988 as Cotton Belt B40-8 number 8041. When Southern Pacific was acquired by Union Pacific in 1996, the GE locomotive became UP 5650. In the early 2000s, it was renumbered as UP 1841, the road number it retains on the Albany and Eastern. In April of 2015, it was acquired by the A&E and was serviced and repainted at Metro East Industries in St. Louis, Missouri. In May, the locomotive was delivered to the A&E, where it continues to pull revenue freight for the Oregon Short Line. With the train now assembled, the crew of A&E 1841 would make their way west toward Albany, where they would interchange cars with the Portland and Western Railroad, a G&W company. Tallman is a Linn County ghost town. A post office was established here in 1886 and remained open until 1923. The community was named so for James Tallman, a pioneer settler. Tallman was once a station stop on the Red Electric Interurban Railroad and was also home to Lebanon Junction, where Southern Pacific's East Side and Lebanon branches connected. In Albany, the A&E parallels Union Pacific's Brooklyn subdivision, which stretches southward from Portland to Oak Ridge within the Cascade Mountain Range east of Eugene. At Queen Avenue Southwest, the A&E crew stopped their train to throw the switch into the yard. The log cars and the consist originated in Crabtree, Oregon, from a transload site owned and operated by the A&E on their branch to Mill City. With the train now easing forward, a Union Pacific high rail truck glides down the main line heading north through Albany. Along with the A&E's own log cars, they also use cars from the Portland and Western. With reporting marks for the Willamette and Pacific, these cars are interchanged to P&W, where the logs are delivered to Teven Brothers in Avon, which is northwest of Portland. From the south end of the yard, we're given an aerial view of Portland and Western EMD SD7R number 1501. This venerable locomotive was just shy of 69 years old at the date of our visit, being built in November of 1952 by EMD for the Southern Pacific Railroad as part of an order of 43 units. The classic high hood locomotive was the SP's second EMD SD7 and is one of the last remaining examples in existence. With their lengthy train in tow, the Albany and Eastern crew approached the historic Amtrak depot in downtown Albany. Built and opened in 1908, the station is now a central transfer point for trains, buses, and cars. After dropping off their train, the crew ran light power through the yard before tying onto an already assembled outbound train from the Portland and Western. The train would return to Lebanon in the afternoon, switching cars along the way. As the conductor walked south to throw the switch, the sound of an air horn could be heard in the distance. Within minutes, the headlight of a southbound Union Pacific local train appeared with a locomotive consist that included a patched Southern Pacific AC 4400 second out. With the conductor now back on the locomotive, the train departed Albany just after 2 p.m. Locomotive 1841 would run hammerhead style back to Lebanon with the rear radiators fanned out over the railhead. center beams will be delivered to Weyerhaeuser in East Lebanon, where they'll eventually be loaded with processed lumber for retail stores like the Home Depot, Menards, or Lowe's. South of Lebanon, the main line of the A&E ducks under the busy I-5 bridge. The 1,381-mile interstate spans between Canada and Mexico and runs through California, Oregon, and Washington. This customer along Midway Drive southeast loads seeds into 60-foot-high cube boxcars. We watched as the crew of 1841 switched out an empty boxcar and picked up a loaded one before continuing the rest of the way to Lebanon. 1841 wears an attractive yellow and green paint scheme that was applied to the rest of the short line's GE fleet in 2021. It was among the first to wear the new scheme. The GE B40-8 is a 4-axle diesel-electric locomotive series that was made between 1988 and 1989. The -8 series and successor -9 series of freight locomotives helped General Electric become the dominant locomotive builder of the 1990s, outpacing EMD's locomotive production 2-1. A total of 151 examples of B40-8 locomotives were built for North American railroads, with Cotton Belt purchasing 55 for high-speed intermodal service. Being a Southern Pacific subsidiary, the B40-8s often frequented SP's lines in California, Oregon, and Washington. Today, it looks right at home on the A&E, where it will likely operate for decades to come. West of Lebanon, we caught SW 1200R number 1866, pulling a short train of 2 flat cars and 4 loaded center beams. The crew of the small switcher, which included Bob Frazier, would pull the flat cars ahead, cut them off, and then shove them back into the siding. They would repeat the process with the center beams, which would put the loaded cars on the head end of the cut. This was to make switching easier for the next train crew out of Lebanon. Number 1866 was originally built as an SW9 number 232 for the Pittsburgh and Shawmut Railroad Company in October of 1953. In 1976, the Shawmut Line repainted the locomotive in a bicentennial scheme and named the EMD Oliver Winchester. In the late 1990s, it was acquired by the Willamette and Pacific, a Genesee and Wyoming subsidiary. It later became Portland and Western number 1201, where it operated for 2 decades, all the while wearing the bicentennial scheme. In 2019, it was acquired by the Albany and Eastern and was repainted in June of 2021 in fresh bicentennial colors. The paint was so new that if you look closely, you can see the overspray on the wheels. After recording 1866, we caught Amtrak's southbound Coast Starlight outside of Albany with the Phase 1 Heritage Unit leading. After seeing the Coast Starlight south of Albany, we returned to the historic depot to watch northbound Amtrak Cascades Train 508 stopping in Albany just after 5:15 p.m. The train, pulled by a Siemens Charger, was a Talgo Series 8 train set, one of only 2 remaining on the Cascades route. deemed unsafe by the National Transportation Safety Board following a fatal Amtrak wreck at DuPont, Washington in 2017, the original Talgo Series 6 sets were phased out. Plans to replace the remaining Talgo Series 8 sets are in the works, but with no date set for their retirement. "25 minutes later, the local Union Pacific from earlier in the day was returning to Portland and rolled by the station around 5:45 p.m. After catching the Union Pacific local, we decided to head north to Oregon's capital city of Salem to record southbound Cascade Service Train 505. This station was constructed for the Southern Pacific Railroad in 1918 and is the third station to be built at this location. The current structure was designed by Southern Pacific's chief architect, John H. Christie. A restoration project by the Oregon Department of Transportation was completed in 2000. At 7:34 p.m., Cascades Train 505 would arrive at Salem Station. Non-powered control unit number 9251, a former EMD F40PH, was being pushed by P42DC number 163 on the rear. Although primarily used as cab cars, the NPCUs feature roll-up doors for storing baggage and bicycles on longer corridor routes like the Cascade service. These units are dubbed as cabbages by the railfan community since they serve in both capacities.
Or go to www.amtrak.com/check. Thank you for choosing Amtrak.
While stopped at Salem, the station agent opened a baggage door to retrieve a bicycle for a passenger. The friendly engineer carefully handed the bike down to the agent before returning to his seat in the cab.
You want to drop it? You want to drop the door or you want me to drop it?
See you later. Good night.
Just after 8 p.m., we returned to Albany to record the train once more before the sun dipped below the horizon. The only reason we were able to get ahead of the train was that 505 had to wait for a freight train to pass north of town. While stopped, we spoke to the engineer, who was equally surprised to see us waiting at the station platform. NPCU number 9251 began life in October of 1977 as an EMD F40PHR. The fuel tank has nothing to do with F40PH versus PHRs. The R represents an F40PH built with SDP-40F components such as air compressors, trucks, and electrical equipment. In the late 1990s, it was rebuilt at Amtrak's Beech Grove shops outside Indianapolis, with the prime mover removed and cement added to the fuel tank as ballast. It has been assigned to the Cascade service its entire life and received a baggage door in 2018. This was our last train of the day, concluding our adventure in the Willamette Valley. We hope you enjoyed the video and thank you for watching Delay and Block Productions. Until next time, happy railroading.